What up, gang? Social media has completely changed the way people use the internet. But here's the thing. Is your website any different these days? Or is it still doing the same stuff it was doing 5, 10, even 15 years ago? When I look around, I see everybody building websites still doing the same stuff, making the same mistakes. But we're in a new reality now. The way people use the internet is different. That means we need to change our websites if we want them to continue to be effective in this new reality. With this in mind, let's talk about the 3 key things you need to know to run a winning website in the age of social media. First up, we've got this idea that nobody browses websites anymore. Once upon a time, before social media, that's what everybody did. That was our highway on-ramp for the internet. We'd get on a blog, we'd click around to a bunch of different things, and that would take us to new and exciting places. But here's the thing, nobody does that anymore. Nobody even browses websites. We browse social media feeds looking for something interesting, and occasionally we may click on a link that takes us to a website. But we're looking for something very specific when we go to that page. We are not there to browse. We are not there to learn about, the author's cat or anything like that. We're there for a specific reason. So nobody browses websites. You've got to remember this. Websites are for closing. They are for transactions. They are for finishing the job, or for taking care of business. And if you want to cater to this new reality about nobody browsing websites, you need to have a fast website. It needs to be visually clean and uncluttered. And you need to have simple navigation, because even something simple like navigation can throw people off from what you want them to do. Think about this. You drop a link in your socials to a page on your website. And when somebody gets there, they're there for a specific reason, whatever your teaser reason was in your social media post. And now when they land on your site, the first thing they see is a big navigation menu with a bunch of links. So instead of, you've already primed them for whatever information you got them there on the page for, instead of delivering on that right away and finishing that transaction, solidifying the deal, you instead have presented them with a bunch of options and are now asking them to think about, is this stuff right for me? Is this what I want to see? Or do I need to skip all this? So you're asking the user to do too much. Get right to the point if you want to win. Nobody browses websites. That means you got to get right to the point. Moving on to our second key point for running a winning website in the age of social media, and that is this idea about one page, one goal. This means every time you create a new web page, you are to define a single goal for that page. No other goals, just one single goal. This is usually something like an action you want a visitor to take. Maybe you just want somebody to come away inspired and feeling good. It can be that simple. It doesn't have to be anything. Maybe it can be making a sale. You get the idea, right? One single action that defines success for this web page. When you create a page and you've got your defined goal, now after that, I want you to go through every item on the page and analyze it to see if it, does this facilitate the goal or does it take away from it? So for example, if you go down the page and you see that you've got a couple elements here that don't serve the purpose of the page, remove them. Get rid of anything that does not go with this one page, one goal mantra. So some tips for doing this: eliminate all distractions. This visual distractions especially. This means getting rid of things like sidebars. Stuff that has been commonplace that we just take for granted, stuff that's been on websites for years, is actually hurting conversions, okay? The reason why, and I'll get more into this later, I've got an example to show you, but the bottom line is if you've got a main piece of content, but you've also got some unrelated junk in the sidebar, people's eyes will be darting back and forth from the main content over to the sidebar, and this is a way to get people distracted and to get them off course. And when people are not totally locked in, they get into distraction mode. And if you give them things that will distract them, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to be distracted. So help your visitors achieve the goal that you have set out for the page by eliminating all these unnecessary distractions. So other things that serve as these distractions are things like related posts at the bottom of a page, serving your social media content on your website. Absolutely stupid. That's what social media is for, to see that content. Don't be putting this stuff on your website. It only serves as a distraction and slows down your pages. And then finally, to make this easy, the one page, one goal, you define a clear path to success on each page. This involves things like a top-down vertical flow. The whole web medium is a top-down medium, okay? Websites are top-down flow mediums. We got to quit building these designs that are horizontally biased. Like I said, you put stuff over off to the side, and you got horizontally oriented stuff, people's eyes are going to be darting back and forth and they're going to get distracted. So get rid of that. Top-down flow, vertical only. That's one way to win here. Obviously getting rid of all distractions. And then third, have a very obvious, a clear and obvious call to action. So if you want to get email signups, or if you want to make a sale, something like that, make sure that that section of the page is incredibly clear. And also make it clear which action you want the user to take. If you want them to sign up for an email list, say, hey, sign up for my email list below. It's simple. And now we have our third key point, my personal favorite, and that is which formatting elements will keep your visitors glued to your pages. Or maybe another way of putting this is, what kind of text formatting and exciting visual formatting should you use to spice up your pages and make them interesting, but also without distracting your visitors, all right? So the number one things that I can think of are fonts and general typography, like having proper spacing between the lines of text, visually pleasing proportions so that people actually want to read. Use things that break up the flow of the page as people scan it. Pleasant visual breaks such as subheadlines, images or videos, involving quotations. And then you've also got fancier formatting elements like drop caps. This looks super fancy and, highbrow. Call outs, which would be like, put some text in a yellow box or a blue box or something like this, or like a note like, hey, check this out. Using buttons. Buttons are visually exciting, always goes great with a call to action. Captions on images. People will reliably scan the following items as they go down a web page. They will check out the headline of the page. They will check out any subheadlines as they go down. They will also see any bolded text you have inside paragraphs. That's a pro tip. And then they will also scan, obviously images, but also captions associated with any images. So those are high visibility elements. You want to make sure you're using this kind of thing. It helps hold attention. And another one might be footnotes. If you have some footnotes, that also looks sort of like academic and authoritative, trustworthy. And then you've got elite formatting elements such as edge-to-edge bleeds. So this is something like a full width section with a different background color as somebody scrolls down the page. That's visually arresting. That captures attention. And then also something I call focus cards. Cards are a very interesting visual formatting element. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but cards capture attention as well. It's a good way to turn a basic idea into an actual thing. It gives this sense of tangibility on the internet, which is always good. So now we're going to look at an example of terrible design that does not fit this one page, one goal idea, and certainly does not serve the modern internet where nobody browses websites anymore. This particular unfortunate example is taken from Architectural Digest, which you think might know better for this kind of thing, but absolutely not, as we see here. So the problems that I see right away, we've got this goofball, horizontally oriented presentation of 5 different articles. There's no way for me to really tell about relative importance of any of them or about the chronology, if that matters at all. Who knows? The presentation is poor. But we've got that one big picture in the middle, and then we've got 2 smaller ones on either side of it. And then we've got some blank, dead white space there in the middle too, which is also unsightly. And as you look down the page, at the very bottom here is trending stories, which is essentially related posts, which I spoke about earlier. These are all going to serve to distract people, but also there is no goal for this page. Like, what is my reason to be here? The entire design of this website caters to browsing, but as I said at the beginning of the video, nobody browses websites anymore. So this is a behavioral mode that literally does not exist anymore, and yet this website is still styling itself for that behavior. Does that make any sense at all? Of course not. Now let's look at an example of something a little bit better. Here's a proper modern web page. Notice no visual distractions at all, no clutter, nothing in the sidebars, nothing. It just drives you straight down the page from the top to the bottom, and there's stuff that's not pictured here, but there's buttons to go to the next page of the sales process. So basically this page exists to sell a software product, and all you can do from this page is read information about the product and then advance to the next step in the purchasing process. That's it. So that's the goal for the page, is to get you to learn about the product and to take an action to buy the product. Okay? So, I broke some rules here, and I use this example so you can see that you can break the rules a little bit, but you got to know what you're doing. So at the top there, you see the myth versus reality sections in the blue and pink backgrounds. Now, these elements are horizontal, which sort of breaks the top-down flow that I talked about. But everything in this little section speaks to the goal of the page. And this contrast, that is set up in that section actually helps people understand what they're getting into. So this is a useful element when done like this. But again, this is not some distraction thing. This is not some random non sequitur email opt-in form out to the side. Nothing like that. Everything you see here serves the purpose of the page. And in fact, comparisons, people do a good job with a horizontal orientation for comparisons. Like on the left, this, on the right, that. People can really make those comparisons very easily that way. So this actually helps people with their cognition. And again, it serves the purpose of the page. They better understand the product after going through that little if this, then this sort of contrast. So anyway, and again, I've used a subheadline there. It says "Fight Back with Focus" with the boxing gloves on either side. And then that whole section that's orange with the background, that is a full width bleed that I mentioned earlier. This is a great way to break up your pages and to get people re-engaged with each new section. That way their attention is heightened and they're really paying attention to what you have to offer. So there it is, fam. You now have your toolkit for building pages that actually work in the age of social media. Take these tips, put them to use, and your website will become more effective right away. Peace.